Jerusalem. This is not just a city. It is a place fought over for thousands of years, a place where blood has been spilled again and again across different empires, religions, and generations. Armies from distant lands marched toward it, believing it was worth any sacrifice. Every stone in this city carries memory, and every street has seen conflict. But among all these events, the summer of 1099 stands out as one of the darkest, most brutal, and unforgettable moments in its long and violent history. It did not begin suddenly. For centuries, the Middle East had been slowly transforming, shaped by conquests, trade, religion, and political struggles. After the rise of Islam in the 7th century, lands that once belonged to the Christian world gradually came under Muslim control. Palestine, Syria, Egypt, and vast regions beyond changed rulers. Among them was Jerusalem, a city that held deep spiritual importance. These changes did not happen overnight, but over generations, slowly shifting the balance of power. Jerusalem was more than just a city for Christians. It was the place where Jesus lived, taught, and suffered. It was where some of the most sacred events of their faith had taken place. Churches and holy sites stood as symbols of belief and devotion. Yet, for nearly 400 years, the city remained under Muslim rule. Over time, Europe had accepted this reality, but by the late 11th century, attitudes began to change, and what had once been tolerated became unacceptable. In 1071, everything shifted dramatically. The Battle of Manzikert crushed the Byzantine Empire's strength in the east. The Seljuk Turks seized vast territories, breaking defensive lines that had stood for centuries. Important cities fell one after another, leaving the empire exposed and vulnerable. The Christian world began to feel a growing sense of fear. What once seemed distant was now becoming a direct threat. The balance of power had changed, and urgent action seemed necessary. Faced with this crisis, the Byzantine emperor turned to the west and asked for help. He needed soldiers, trained warriors who could stop the advance. In 1095, at the Council of Clermont in France, Pope Urban II delivered a speech that would echo across history. It was not just a call for aid, it was a call to arms, a message designed to inspire, unite, and mobilize thousands of people across Europe. Urban II spoke with powerful emotion. He described Jerusalem as the center of the world, a sacred land that must be reclaimed. He promised something extraordinary. Anyone who joined the campaign would have all their sins forgiven. For people living in fear, guilt, and hardship, this promise was overwhelming. It offered not just a journey, but redemption. Those words ignited deep passion, turning ordinary people into believers ready to risk everything. Deus vult! God wills it! The crowd shouted loudly, filled with emotion and purpose. Thousands began preparing immediately. They left behind families, homes, and everything familiar, driven by faith, desperation, or ambition. But religion was not the only reason. Some sought adventure, others wealth, and many simply hoped for a better life. The movement grew rapidly, spreading across villages and cities like wildfire. For many, this journey was an escape. Europe at the time was struggling with famine, disease, and economic hardship. Crops failed, food was scarce, and survival was uncertain. For poor families, the crusade offered hope, a chance to leave suffering behind. Knights, too, faced challenges. Without land or income, many had little to lose. For them, the campaign promised opportunity, land, wealth, and a new future in distant lands. Soon, entire regions were on the move. The first wave, however, was unorganized and chaotic. It consisted of peasants, beggars, and untrained fighters with little equipment or planning. Their leader, Peter the Hermit, inspired them with faith, but could not provide structure. This people's crusade quickly fell apart. Along the way, they caused destruction and suffering, and when they finally faced trained forces, they were easily defeated. But the true crusade had yet to begin. A second wave followed, this time composed of real armies. These were knights, soldiers, and commanders with experience and discipline. Their journey was long and filled with hardship. For 3 years, they marched through unknown lands, facing hunger, illness, and constant danger. Many died along the way, others turned back. But those who survived pressed forward, driven by belief and determination. In the summer of 1099, after years of struggle, they finally saw Jerusalem. But the city was prepared. Its defenders had taken careful measures. Wells outside the walls were destroyed, trees were cut down, and resources were removed to weaken the attackers. The Crusaders quickly realized they were in a dangerous position. Water was scarce and the heat was relentless. Survival became as difficult as the battle itself. Their first attempt to take the city failed. The walls were too strong and the defenders were ready. Arrows, stones, and fire forced the attackers back. The Crusaders suffered heavy losses and were pushed away. It became clear that they needed a new plan. Strength alone would not be enough. They needed strategy, coordination, and engineering if they wanted to succeed. Work began immediately. Siege towers were constructed, massive wooden structures built to reach the top of the walls. The labor was exhausting. Under the burning sun with little water, men worked day and night. Some collapsed from heat and exhaustion, but others took their place. The determination was unbreakable. By mid-July, everything was ready. The final assault would decide everything. The attack began. On July 14th, forces moved into position. By July 15th, the decisive moment arrived. One of the towers reached the northern wall. The bridge was lowered and soldiers rushed forward. Fighting broke out instantly. It was chaotic, violent, and intense. Slowly, the defenders began to lose ground. The Crusaders pushed through. The gates were opened, and the army poured into the city. What followed was devastation. A massacre began, and no one was spared. The streets filled with chaos, fear, and blood. Many tried to hide, but there was no escape. After the violence came looting as soldiers searched for wealth. And then, in a moment of contrast, the same men walked barefoot to pray, believing they had fulfilled a sacred mission. Jerusalem had fallen. And in that moment, the world saw how far humanity can go, for belief, for power, and for survival.